Roles of a denizen. A content creator is a user that creates posts and is rewarded based on the quality of their content. A content evaluator is a user that helps assess the quality of content and enforces community standards. The evaluator is effectively taking part in a marketplace to curate content and is rewarded for early evaluation. A content consumer is a user that wishes to find and consume the most valuable content in a given subject area or within a community. A layer owner is a person holding tokenized ownership of all or part of a community layer. Owners are rewarded with a portion of all mining activity happening within their layer. Owners are incentivized to build the best community of content creators and evaluators.
What's up, y'all? Happy Thursday. Today is, that is a wrong date on my computer. It is October 6th, 2022, DENDAO meeting for the week. We do these on Thursdays at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific every week. This is a meeting where all denizens are welcome to come and join and discuss. You can also leave a comment in the reply section of the DENDAO post in the DENDAO layer. You can chime in on chat. So we're here to talk about all the things. We got a brief agenda. And we're here with Joe and I am, as we typically are. So how's it going? Hello.
Hello.
Happy day.
Hello. Happy day.
Cool. So what we've got is we have October LCP. We have a DENDAO approved, proposal. We'll talk a little bit about how payouts work in general, how periodic they are, how negative energy can affect them. That's related to the DENDAO proposal as well. And then we'll see what kind of community feedback we have once we've gone through that stuff. So first thing, we have layer proposals are hot. You can propose stuff. So if there's a community, a topic, a category of conversation or discussion that you think is not represented in the list of already competing layers, which is over in the LCP section, the little circle, the check mark, there's a bunch of layers in there. You can go and check and see if your favorite topic is already in there as a proposed layer. And if not, you can propose your own layer. And that will go into the list and we'll vote on them this month as we do every month. And at the end of that whole thing, we'll have 3 new layers at the end of the month. So that's hot and ready, and you can go do that now. So that's, I think, nothing more than an announcement, unless you guys have something you want to say about the proposals.
Nope. I'm definitely going to throw some lot over there. I want some lot. I mean, some lore.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Me too.
Always a lot.
I try to make sure that I keep my. If you don't know, actually, this is a good time to reiterate. When you have an account on Den and you're participating and you're getting rewarded matter, that matter is automatically earning lore for you. Which maybe this is a bit of an advanced feature set for some people. You don't have to care about all this, but you do get lore for free. And lore, layer ownership rights. This is what you use to vote on new layers. And if that layer wins, you get a 1-for-1. Swap out your lore for lot. So if you put in, you can vote more than once. However much lore you have, that's how many votes you get. So if you vote 100 times on a particular layer, that layer wins either the number 1 by unique voters or 5 and 13 by lore, total lore committed. If it's in one of those categories that wins, you get to be an owner of that layer. What does that mean? That means you get lot. What is lot? Lot is the ownership token that we use to conduct governance in the layers. You can propose things You can vote on things that other people propose. You can change the avatar. You can turn on reputation requirements so that you can better auto moderate and manage the denizens within your community to keep it clean, safe, and effective. And I don't know, keywords, throw them out there to make it a good layer. I don't know why it's clean, safe, and effective, but that's what I had in mind. So yeah, that's how you do all those things. So go definitely keep an eye on what's up for grabs, because that's how you grab it. Grab life by the horns. Is that RAM?
You have to kind of keep an active eye early on it to kind of know what's up and what's in within range, within striking distance, right? Which layers, and then also anything over 8 that might be created, you have to kind of say, well, I better put something into that in case somebody creates it manually, right?
My personal strategy is I just kind of do a shotgun approach. I hit them just hit a little bit to all of them almost. There's a few that I'm like, I have no interest in this category.
Yeah.
But,
and
then I start adding them as I see them click up month after month. I start adding a little bit more.
Yeah, I sort of take that approach the same as I am, where I want to make sure that some of them, I don't care if I have 1% of ownership. I just want to have some sort of give me some ownership. Let me vote. Let me have a say, that kind of thing. Hyperion Frequency in chat says that he likes to save up lore before making a proposal so he can have a huge chunk of it. Go ahead and dump that in there. If I'm making a proposal, I want to hold at least a decent percent.
Yeah.
Cool. So that's it for the October LCP. Moving along, we have our DENDAO, their latest proposal, which is it's really interesting. It's about the evaluator reputation system, and that is passed. So that'll be something that we've done the majority of the design work. What's laid out here is a general design of how it's going to work. Now, the details and stuff could vary slightly from that, depending on how best it needs to be implemented once it's written and implemented and all that stuff. But I guess to speak to that, and it sort of goes into the next thing on the agenda too. This is to address an issue where people are starting to notice that their payouts have changed. In the past, there's been a pretty how do I even describe what's going on? So people have noticed that in the past, they've consistently received a particular sort of cadence of payouts, right? They could, maybe it goes up and down, month to month, but there's been not a lot of surprises until about a month or so ago, which is why we've been talking about this for the last 3 meetings. Until about a month or so ago, some denizens have brought up, some support calls to Den support, some concerns about, hey, what's going on? I noticed that my rewards have noticeably changed. In fact, some days I don't get paid out anything at all. What's going on? And so there does seem to be, I would call it a weakness in the Den algorithm, where there is not a system for, I would say, weeding out what is effectively acting as a bots, right? And maybe you guys, if I describe this incorrectly, I don't want to make any assumptions, but it seems like there's people that are going around and downvoting everyone's content so that their content rises above, even if it doesn't deserve to. And the effect that has is, every day or every period, which happens to be a day, there's a payout of matter rewards based on how everyone performs on the site. So if you're able to, let's say, manipulate the consensus around legitimately good posts to make it appear as if to the algorithm they're not consensus positive, what you can do is you can quite literally steal other people's rewards. I don't know how to put it. Well, I could probably put it nicely, more nicely than that. But
it maybe isn't because it's not directly stealing. It would be more like
it's an indirect. It's an indirect
sabotage.
influence on how much of the share is going to other content.
Manipulation, and probably violating terms of service.
The reason that I say steal, that's a pretty direct term. The reason I say that is because there's only 1,000 matter that gets rewarded every day. And if you're effectively reducing the rewards that other people get so that your rewards get a larger number of matter, a larger percent of that share, you're effectively taking rewards that belong to other people and shifting it over into your pool. So some of that's going on. It doesn't break everything. It makes things to where we need to improve it, though, right? So this is something that we improve. Now, it's one of the reasons that I'm not 100% like I'm annoyed that it's going on, right? But I'm not like, I don't know, I'm not as pissed as I am interested in improving the system, because that's one thing that, like with Den and before we have like a bunch of people on it, it's great to see this now, so that it's like, oh, you know what, we should probably implement something like this DENDAO proposal. So just a summary on it, what we're going to do is we're going to have a system where layer owners can decide who gets to vote on posts. Right now, anybody can vote on anything. There's no, unless you have reputation turned on in your layer where you say, you got to have a certain layer rep to vote. There's no specific eval reputation score. The reputation is like it's like based on your content. Yeah, it's a content reputation. So right now you can use content reputation, but if somebody doesn't post any content, then that really doesn't apply very much to them, or not directly anyway. And so we have a way now where we're going to have an eval reputation, and a layer owner can say, all right, we want people that are skilled, fair and balanced, or accurate and balanced evaluators to be who votes in our layer. And you can loosen those restrictions or tighten them based on what you're seeing inside of your layer. And it is up to the layer owners, the lot holders, to do that. So even though this is something that can be implemented by DENDAO, it still has to be used by the layer owners. And I would even say that the existing reputation system doesn't get used enough. Most layers, I think, have it turned off. So that's what's going on there. That was long-winded. You want to go into that a little bit, or tear it apart some?
I think it's pretty well accurate. I mean, we can go into the more that we talk about it, the more I think about it. I want to get the eval rep in place. I want to, double check these. Any imagined attack on it. Like say if the eval rep is effectively the balance in those standard deviation bands across the bell curve, multiplied by the shared consensus, or whatever you want to call it, that the consensus ended up being 90% positive, and I marked a positive score. And if it's flipped, if everybody voted up but I'm voting down, then that's a knock. Mm-hmm. If you take that, you just have to be careful that I couldn't still manufacture the rep by, voting up my friend's stuff, voting down theirs, and occasionally limiting the number of times I do that, where I make sure that I'm voting per what is the likely rep on the positive and negative, but then every so often I use my rep, which is still pretty high, and attack this one, which reduces my rep, but it only reduces by so much. That would be an attack on it. And there are some options, and we talked just before we came live about the potential to even say maybe the energy market value, that is the number that you see, should be hidden, or at least the current period's amount. Like let's say somebody posted 10 minutes before UTC 0 hour. and so there's not a lot of energy in that first hour, but the rest of the energy. So you would maybe see the first hour, that last period's energy, which was, oh, there's only 100 applied to it. But then you wouldn't see today's until the end of the period, because right now it looks, we had originally thought, okay, we're not showing, we're showing the absolute number. We used to show downvote, it's 10,000 down. We don't show that anymore. We show the absolute, which is what the algorithm uses. But the problem there is if I'm orchestrating this attack, I would see, oh, that's a really high energy post. The energy market's high. It's a threat. It could be up. It could be down. I don't care. I'm going to vote it down so I can reduce that threat and push my own stuff. And if you couldn't see that, then I would have to now decide, I have to look across the board at all the posts and see, decide where to attack, which is hard.
You know what I'm kind of for with that? I am for that. What I'd like to see is that system where it's blind voting, it's objective, like not based on what other people have done, not based on what other people have said. Don't bandwagon it. Like, okay, you have a post, vote on it. After a period is over, or after however much time is decided, then there's that other priorities list item where you have the transparency or the proof reports, right? So you could actually then, that would be when you turn on, it'd be like opposites. You can't see anything, while it's like the first day during the period, but then after it's gotten some consensus and after it's gone through a payout period, then it's like the opposite. Now it's completely transparent, where you can not only can you see how much energy has been put on it and whether it was positive or negative, but you could also see who voted positive or negative.
Right.
And one of the benefits of that is exactly kind of the concept of Den, I think, which is to let the system run itself. Yeah. Because if everybody can see what's, by the way, it's already on chain and identifiable, but if we just make it on the front end to where everybody can see, oh, you know what? It's the same 15 accounts that are voting down on all of this stuff. They're obviously doing some kind of thing. Then the community can kind of respond to that. And you could even have layer owners take charge at that point to say, like, okay, this is obviously behavior that we do not want in our layer. It doesn't have to be bad behavior. It doesn't have to be good behavior or whatever. You can just say, for whatever reason, okay, we're seeing this behavior. We are seeing it from these accounts and from these denizens. We don't want that behavior, so we're going to propose to ban that particular user from our layer. So it can just handle itself.
And that's true, because you could do it manually, right? Or the DAO.
The DAO in each individual layer through these lot tokens I was talking about earlier, which is why it's important to pay attention to the voting.
And I'm not promising this or anything, but if we had this info, you think about what could be done, and I don't know what the best angle is without doing it and seeing the data, but imagine if we said, okay, first of all, your eval rep is not going to be the site-wide rep that is the filtered part. It is your rep within this layer. So if you try to only vote our posts down, but vote all of your posts up in this other layer with your friends, you're going to have a horrible rep in our layer because you only vote stuff down. So that's one piece. The site-wide, I think, would still be useful, but for the filtering, I think it needs to be the layer. The other thing is...
That is a good point, because I hadn't thought of that before.
And then the half-life. Yeah. The fact that you can come back for a period of time, but it's we already talked about a couple of different angles that if it could be longer or shorter depending on your site-wide rep. That if you have a really good site-wide rep and a horrible rep in here, maybe you're allowed back in sooner, but it's still, you're going to fall right back out because you're only downvoting. The other thing that's potentially interesting is, well, I won't go into the lot side yet. I was going to say that in a minute, but imagine if we have that data, we could actually pull up and say, look, your rep in this layer is really good, but your rep against this one person, like you only vote this person down, which might be valid because maybe they are a troll, maybe they are posting junk, right? And so everybody's voting them down. But if you consistently vote a single denizen down when everyone else doesn't. The consensus is that this isn't junk content.
A flip consensus is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And monitoring the extreme negative or the extreme positive.
Yeah.
This person always gives only one person upvotes and never gives anybody any downvotes.
Yeah.
The extremes on both sides.
It's less that this person only gives one account. It is that interactions between those accounts, that if every time I evaluate Dave's content, it's always negative, and that is not with consensus, then there's something that happens. Maybe my evaluation of Dave's content is attenuated. Maybe it is programmatically dropped, the weight. Something like that would be possible, but we would need to see the data.
Yeah, it's relatively, it's pretty natural even for, to have accounts that maybe they only upvote or they only vote up on one account. Because what if you just you have, 5 or 10 of your friends that you get to join Den, and hey, I got a coffee show on Wednesday. Come check out my coffee show. You don't know anybody else, but you know me. And that's the only thing you care about. So, my friend does the thing. And so they're going to follow me and they're going to vote me up, but maybe not everybody else. That's not necessarily a problem.
Yeah.
That can happen naturally.
So that would become more prevalent too if we had the capabilities of following certain users. That would be, you would follow one particular user all the time, or a handful of people that your favorites, and irregardless if they were posting in which layer, you might follow them and say, oh yeah, I agree with his post here, I agree with his post there, and not really give any kind of evaluation, if you will, to other users within that layer. You follow what I'm trying to say?
You could, so with the new system, that would push you out of the ability to vote if that layer has restricted the voting, that kind of thing. But you can do that now. You can unsubscribe from every layer and then subscribe to one person, and all you'll see is their post. No matter what layer they go in, you'll just see their post in your main feed. But even with that, really, that person who's getting the upvotes, they're just competing against other content creators on the platform, right? Now, whenever you then, the next step, go out of your way to not only, let's say you just want to focus everything on your buddy, okay, whatever. But then if you go out of your way to manipulate the consensus in other content from other people that you quote unquote don't like or you don't want to compete against, that's when it gets into the territory of terms of service violations, where your intent and your actions are you're manipulating and attacking it. And so that's to me, that's where the difference is.
Question. Let's suppose that the layer that we're first seeing this trouble with, let's say that it had 5,000 people. All right, this problem probably wouldn't have surfaced if there was 5,000 people subscribed to that particular layer.
Right.
But let's now fast forward. Now there's 5,000 people in that layer. How will this evaluation process look for that one individual? All right, I'm trying to think it through here. That one individual that is consistently downvoting, or their reputation score within that layer, isn't going to make much of a difference either way, because there's 5,000 people in the layer. Or if it was a handful of 10 or 20 people, or 10 or 20 bogus, logins. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What would this change do in that scenario for all the evaluators in that layer? How does it change? How does it change if the layer has 5,000 subscribers?
Well, it changes by only allowing people that fall within the reputation required to vote. Is that what you're asking?
I guess.
So, what it's doing for the layer owners is it's giving them a way to weed out. Let's say that you've got a bunch of people that only ever vote one way, right? Mm-hmm. It gets rid of that group of people without having to identify who they are. You don't have to care who they are, right? You don't have to pinpoint or single anyone out. You can just say anyone that follows into this pattern doesn't get to vote in my layer. Right now, the only way that you can do that is by setting it based on their content reputation. You cannot set it based on their evaluator reputation because there is no evaluator reputation, not yet. So the same is true for people that only vote up. It would affect people that only vote up in your layer too. What you want is people to try to turn up the heat a little bit on competition.
Do evaluations.
Here's the thing. We could very well. We haven't run through models on this or anything, but right now the quorum is probably the key piece that's there to kind of adjust that, and it was intended to grow or shrink based upon the size of the layer. But the more I think about it, it's set at 13 right now across all layers.
Yes. Yes.
I think maybe we should set it to like 100 or even 1,000, and have a scaled curve, because the layers that have real people and real evaluators, these seemingly would have more. Right now it's easy to pass the threshold with only 13 fake accounts if you were to want to do that. I don't know, right? And all that does is gets it up to 1 to compete with anything else that gets 13. Because if you only get 3 evaluators, it's so small it really won't matter, even if it's a ton of energy.
So if you increased it to 50 and the quorum was never reached, what happens again?
The matter payouts are attenuated. Essentially, I can't remember the breakdown, but I think that it is just in over 13. What do you call full ceiling 1? So if you get 13 over 13, you get 13 evaluators. Then it's a 1 times the evaluation. 80% up times the amount of energy, and then that is in competition with every other post. So if you only get 2, then it's 2 over 13 times that same equation.
Right.
So it's just really attenuated, and it's linear. It's not a curve or anything. But
so just hypothetically, what would happen if that number was set to 10,000 and nothing ever received consensus? I'm just curious. What would happen with the matter?
The consensus is the separate. That's just literally the ups versus down votes. Over, I guess it's up vote over total votes is the consensus number. And it's normalized so that it's simple. It's 80% up, 80% down, whatever. But
that number is not dynamic to the size of the layer. That number is
that was the consensus I just described. I wasn't done yet.
Right.
The quorum is the N over 13. So it was intended to be the thing to squish it down. What you really would want, I think, is to make your denominator be the either the average, or maybe it could even be dynamic. Instead of it being like active users in your layer, it could literally be what post has the most evaluations on it for that day. Let's say one post got 80 evaluators on that day. That it could be N over 80, and they're all competing for not only getting the most evaluations. Now, the issue is with bots, you could push that up. So I don't know how it would affect it, right? But in a natural system, it would be like that, where the post that was most evaluated would set the curve for all the others. That would get the 100%, and all the rest would get a smaller quorum multiplied times their consensus times the market size. So something like that could be used in this, but we'd have to, frankly, one of the most direct angles, which is still a ways away, is factors. Because if we could apply, here's the thing: if we could prove that was, how do I say this? The more you can prove that you're real, the more that vote matters. Like, say, I'm going to put in the $1.50 or whatever it is to do an actual KYC. or I'm going to do a manual, and maybe I have to pay Matter for it. I'm going to send to Den administrators or volunteers my selfie, Coinbase-esque, KYC. This is me. I'm writing Den on here. This is really me. And, that we can keep all those in file and say, wait a minute, that's the same guy with a beard, right? But if you have that, then you get 100% of every vote. Whereas if you've never, if it's just a sock puppet account, maybe it's, 2.5%, the same value. Something like that we could do today, and we could plug it in. Factor's coming. We have one project that's actively building that stuff out. We're going to plug it into Den. And
anytime I hear KYC, I cringe. It's my personal.
Well, that's what I like about Factor is it allows you to use the useful parts of a quote unquote a KYC program system without having to actually divulge this type of information. And Factor does allow that. It is a ways off, but that does allow that.
But it would be something as a matter of fact, if it was a paid one, if it was a paid KYC, we could literally not expose your personal data to Den. What you would be doing is exposing it to that third party through MiFi. It would be giving you all those factors. Yeah, I know this might be just as bad, right? Might be worse. You'd be giving back those factors though, and you'd just be registering that, I'm over 21, which means a bunch of things. I can see the not safe for work really easy. I'm a U.S. resident. I'm whatever else. And, maybe there are some elements that you could, for the most value, that would let us know that, you could even go through a smart contract that could verify I've given the smart contract my real address, which was provably signed, the hash, let's say, provably signed by that group. The real address, though, has a hash, which without exposing my address, I can give to the smart contract. He can say, wait a minute, I've seen that hash before. You're that same person. And I'm never actually exposing anything. That stuff like that could be done. And then we can say, okay, this person is a lot more likely to be real than this denizen over here that's never, given us anything, and they only vote down everywhere, right?
I wanted to I've got pulled up on screen. Know-how brings up a good point, and maybe I can clarify what I meant to say a little bit, which is that so know-how was using me as an example, which is fine. What if I consistently post bad content and you just never see anything worth upvoting? So of course you always downvote my content. That's typically fine. What the system that we're describing is based on the layer, not the individual. So I didn't mean to imply that, like, if you're always voting down, like, we want people to identify bots, bad actors, stuff that doesn't belong in the layer, whatever. And if that happens to be the same account every time, that happens to be the same account. Where your evaluation reputation comes from is all the posts from all the denizens, all the content within that layer. So there should reasonably be stuff that does belong in the layer, stuff that does not belong in the layer, stuff that's good content, stuff that's lazy half-ass content, right? And the lazy half-ass content also is good and it's fine, but maybe it gets downvoted because take it to chat, right? Chat, you can bullshit all the time and it doesn't muddy up the actual post. And if it doesn't, in my opinion, if a post to Den doesn't spur a conversation, if there's no reason to talk about it, there's okay, sure, maybe just put it in chat, that kind of thing.
Well, let me ask this.
Can I say on that too? Sure. To that question, it is more about the balance that in a particular layer, you would be welcome to downvote everything you see because you don't maybe care about the good stuff. You just want to identify the bad stuff, and that's valuable. But in that layer, the layer itself by vote can decide that, no, we need everybody to provide some level of separation of good and bad. Don't just give us the bad, because frankly, if you look at it from the analytics side, it's great that you're helping us identify bad content, but frankly, we don't know your range. So we really need to know what you think is good and what you think is bad in order to compare that to everyone else's of the same and get the result. That's what we ideally need.
Answers my question, because my question was going to be, what if I wanted to scour Dan, subscribe to all the layers, and downvote all of the weak content or the spam content or this kind of thing, and that's all I wanted to do was just be, I wanted to be the evaluator, the bullshit evaluator. I want to call out bullshit where I see bullshit, and be just that evaluator. You know what I mean? You would certainly earn less, right?
Okay.
I think that you would find
it would provide a valuable service.
You might, depending upon how, if it's still in, right now, you would probably earn, well on the net, on the downtrend pool, because that's all it cares about. It doesn't care about the up. So if you're finding the stuff that really is down and you're giving that signal early, then you're going to earn well there.
Or weak, yeah.
What this would do, though, is essentially, although it's more work, but you don't have to do it. But by not doing it, some of the layers might say, "No, we don't want you in here." Evaluating, but it is to literally pull it apart, because. And by the way, someone who is really good at pointing out bad content, I would think, you might be less nuanced on the good content because it might be more context specific. I don't know much about cryptocurrency, but I know this is a crappy post because they just posted a picture and didn't say anything, right? So I'm going to vote it down. What you could do is say, look, irrespective of whether, if you're trying to how do I say,
increase quality content.
Yeah. Well, if you are, though, trying to increase your rewards, then you would go in and say, look, I'm not the best at evaluating great content in this layer, but I can know, you know what? I have no idea if this is good content for the community here, but I know it's not bad. So I can vote it up one. I'm not going to bet a whole bunch on it, but I can vote it up one. And I don't have to be as nuanced, but the system, if we implement this with this balanced eval rep, would treat that as, that's a balanced eval. You've essentially hit what, and you might be off occasionally because something you think, well, it's at least a good solid post. It might get, maybe the consensus is bad, but still, it's that kind of thing that it should still work. But there might be some, there will be some limitations if they say, okay, if somebody's only upvoting, because, and by the way, that's going to be the more common that we're going to get from the good people that, I can't vote anymore in this layer because they turned on, because I was only upvoting.
That's kind of what I was going to get at, is that's what you're going to find is if you only vote in one direction, you should find that in some layers you're allowed to vote, some layers you're not allowed to vote, based on what that community values, what they need. Maybe they don't need any more people that vote just in one direction. And like Joe was saying, you need sort of people to think about both ways. I was also going to say that if you're really good at picking out the bad, and maybe Joe, maybe you just said this and I'm just repeating it, but if you're really good at identifying bad or good content, I would think that you would be more confident in your vote, which would mean that you would pull that slider over to apply more energy to it. But where if you just think, okay, that's probably good content, but I'm not really good at picking that out, then you would probably just give it one vote, but that's still a vote that still goes into your balance score. And even if you don't do that, there's the 2 points where it's like there's the balance, but then there's the accuracy also. So if you're unbalanced, but you're highly accurate, well, you still get some score. But if you're balanced and you're not accurate at all, you still get some score. It's just not as good as somebody who's objectively better at it than you are, and they would hit both marks.
Right, and I think to put it into like an FAQ context, it would be, we don't need to explain the algorithms or anything else. We just need to say your goals are to tell us both what you think is good and what you think is bad in each of these layers that you care
That's
about, right?
where I was going to say, I would think we'd want the evaluators to be incentivized, which I believe we are, saying that if you're going to downvote, don't just downvote, explain why you're downvoting, so that you're providing feedback to a content creator to know, okay, I need to up my game in this manner,
And
or I should have expounded here, or whatever.
can I tell you guys one more lot hack that is probably a component of what we're talking about here? And this is a pure lot hack. If you own 20% of a layer, like it's a smaller layer, and it was early days or something like that. If you let's say there's some post that is in there, and it's not a bad post, but it maybe isn't the best post, whatever else. If you vote it up with a significant amount of energy, that energy, the portion of that energy, I can't remember the percentage, I'd have to refresh memory, goes directly to lot, irrespective of consensus. And that was intended so that a lot can compete with us for energy, just raw energy. So that might need to be adjusted, but in the very least, I'm wanting to see it adjusted according to your layer eval rep, because it'll affect, and that's the thing where it'll effectively usher in a new day where lot holders have to participate to be able to get the rewards from that lot.
This is what I was hoping to talk about next anyway.
And you have to balance.
Actually, yeah.
And it can't just be, I'm going to throw it all in positive. I'm going to, it has to be balanced. So
what I like about that is something that I think actually Hyperion Frequency brought up in the past, which is we need more participation from the layer owners, which is absolutely true, because there's a lot of things that could be mitigated already by reputation settings that aren't, for example, right? Like what I did, something that I'm trying out, we'll see how it goes, but something that I'm trying out in the music layer is restricting who can vote on content based on their creator layer reputation, which is kind of in effect a way to say, okay, to qualify to evaluate content, we need you to at least show us an example of what you consider good content, right? So if you post some content and it gets voted on and it's voted up and the community says, yep, that's good content, that's effectively saying that, okay, you gave it as an example of what you think is good content, the community agreed with you, your layer reputation increased, you can vote.
That's an interesting, yeah, that's really
so that's what I've got going on. Is now, like, there's like a lot with that. That's simplification, but that's basically what it is. Yeah.
Now, I've not thought about this at all, but you bring up an idea with that, because that's a really interesting gated way to do stuff.
Yes.
What, and this might be totally not wanted at all, but potentially lot owners could be either the only ones to vote, or could be the heavy weighted votes, because you would effectively have to destroy your own value to attack that system. Where if I'm going to downvote, now that might not matter, because I know, like, say in one layer at least, there some of the people are getting downvotes, whereas some of the other people, we think a lot of the brigading is happening in that layer, both sides. So that might not work, but there could be something there. I don't know.
I like the idea too that we talked about on Dim with Coffee with the tagging, having tags there that says, weak content. And so someone can tag it weak content, and then that way, when you downvote something, you can just click that tag, and that kind of explains why you're downvoting.
Yeah, that came up when we were talking about if we downvote something, maybe put a note that says downvoting this because X. It couldn't be because, like, maybe it's on topic, but it's like, yeah, it's not. You're not really giving us anything here. That kind of thing. Needs more work. It
actually require you to identify yourself too, right?
What's that?
It would require you to identify yourself.
Yes.
If I'm downvoting this, I think it's not good content for the layer.
Unless you hit the anonymous thing, but yeah.
No, see,
we might require a downvote.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm downvoting it.
I don't know.
Both sides. Up or down, you should be identified.
We're trying out tags just to be like, instead of having to type I'm downvoting this because I don't think it's
Oh yes.
like
Yeah.
something that's especially wanted. Maybe add some more information to it or whatever. Just have a tag that means that you could throw on there and be like, try again, or this is kind of weak, or
Plus you can tell if it's just I'm just downvoting it to downvote it versus trying to get them to improve it, either this or the next post, right?
yeah.
I feel like an obligation to, when I downvote, I got to explain why. And then sometimes maybe I'm a little lazy. I don't want to downvote, but, and so I'll only downvote what I think is blatant, spam.
To wrap what I was going to say about Joe's point with the lot, it was and related to something that Hyperion Frequency was saying, was that if you tied your reputation to your lot rewards, then it could potentially help get some of the lot holders to participate more.
Or
Because
effectively, basically filter them out so all the people who are participating grow those rewards and are competing.
And to be clear, that shouldn't affect your governance decision making.
Nope.
Like it shouldn't unweight your voting in the DAO.
Right.
The only thing that it should affect is your I don't know if you want to call it passive rewards or your lot rewards for that particular layer, that kind of thing. Cool.
I'm gonna have to go in a couple of minutes.
Yes,
but you can keep going. So
okay.
Yeah.
So the did we talk about? Yeah, we did. Clarification on how negative energy affects rewards payouts. So yeah, I just wanted to because I've answered this questions a couple of times individually. I just wanted to say it, here. If you're seeing that, oh man, sometimes I don't get any payouts that day, or sometimes my payouts are lower that day. You can end up with a situation where if you have, let's say you have 2 or 3 posts in different layers and they get evaluated positively and you get rewarded for that during one period.
Mm-hmm.
But on the same day or in the same period, you have a post that gets massively downvoted, right? If the energy is negative enough from your one where you got massively downvoted, let's say you have 5 posts and each of them have like 100 energy positive and you get some payout, cool. But if you have one that's got like 5,000 negative energy, that negative energy is subtracted from your positive energy for that day overall, and you end up with a negative energy for the day, which negates all of your matter payouts. And so that's been happening sometimes. Now that doesn't take anything away from your wallet. That doesn't take anything away from yesterday's payout, the day before's payout, or any of that. It only affects that period. But it is the case, at least right now, that negative energy on one post can affect an otherwise eligible for payouts energy on another post. And that's something that okay.
Yeah, but it was intentional, but I do agree. Like we hadn't seen the data yet, so this looks like maybe that needs to be, what would you call it? Compartmentalized.
Compartmentalized, right? Yeah. I would say, to me, it seems fair that particular post would not get rewarded, of course, but that let's say that's something that you put. I go into the Donald and I talk about how much of a sack of shit Donald Trump is. Obviously, that's not wanted in that layer, and I should get downvoted. And if I continue to do that, I should get banned. I should get blocked and banned, right? But maybe I'm posting really cute animal pics in the all layer, and I'm getting massive rewards for it, right? So maybe it shouldn't affect something in a different community. That's the example that I came out with. Sorry for the profanity, but yeah.
The reason that it was there was to try to steer people away from, or to penalize effectively trolls, that because it would effectively keep you from going in and making that post in the Donald, which isn't wanted,
right? Not at all. Yeah.
But at the same time, that'll get downvoted. The people get rewarded for downvoting it because the consensus is good that it's down. It gets pushed down anyway, so maybe it doesn't matter, right? And I do think it'd be worth trying that. We should probably go ahead and make that proposal, and because I actually don't think that code would be that big of a change.
It would. I think it would help in this particular situation, and yes. I think that personally, I think it's more important to protect against. I'll call them bots, even if they're not bots. Yeah. To protect against, I would say like accounts that don't even have to have any matter, that go and like attack other stuff around. Exactly. To protect against that before we care about protecting against trolls necessarily.
Another question.
In order of importance.
Another question. This is something we hadn't talked about, but one more tool we have is exactly what you just mentioned. It would be notably easy for someone, as long as they know what they're doing and they have enough browsers or devices, to create 20 accounts and do this, attack in this way. What if we said that, fine, we do accept that consensus, and maybe I've had the time to even think about this, but why are we accepting an account with 0 matter and I would say 0 earned matter? I don't care if you funded your account, right? Or gotten a tip from someone. It would be, have you done something to have earned an amount of matter that is over a threshold? And maybe it's even some linear or curved attenuation where it's a brand new account. So yes, I'm voting. Yes, I'm participating because the consensus was good, or maybe I've made content, so I'm getting some matter. But if I'm literally only coming in and making downvotes, and I've not earned any matter, maybe some calculus of what we've already talked about with the eval rep, and that should really be powerful, because you could essentially zero out a lot of those accounts. It's like, well, okay, fine, you're voting it up, we're keeping it in the system, but at the same time, when we're actually calculating the consensus, yours is recorded, but we're not counting it, right?
Yeah,
that could be doable.
I get you.
I was just responding a little bit in chat about, some people's. So the question, I guess, is like, quality content or good content is subjective. So if to you, the only thing that's quality, the only thing that's good or deserving of an upvote is original content, and anything else is bad, that's your opinion. But that's going to be there's going to be a different set of expectations in each layer, right? Some layers are going to want only original content. We only want OC in here. We only want stuff that you've created. And in this layer, if you copy something else and bring it in here, we're going to downvote it. Other layers, memes, for example, we want to see all the memes, right? So go steal the memes and bring them in here. We even have a tag for stolen or whatever, that kind of thing. Yep.
And I agree with hyperion frequency on that. I think the lot thing is going to be the most interesting piece, because it'll effectively say, okay, guess what? You have a lot of lot. You can still participate in voting and deciding what to do with the layer, but all of a sudden your rewards are pretty much nothing because you've not voted in that layer.
The single most valuable thing that you can do as a lot holder to increase the value of your lot is to run a good layer that people want to join and be a member of, and to bring other people into it.
Yep.
And part of that is I think there should be more discussion posts that are meta, where it's like, okay, the topic is this, but this discussion is about meta. This is about us as a layer.
I agree.
Let's talk about what kinds of stuff we want to see in this layer. We're all in here together, so that everybody's aware, including content creators. Let's go ahead and let the layer know what we think is good content. Discuss below, and in that discussion, you'll see ideas get sort of organized by votes and pushed up and down. Maybe a fight about it. Who knows? Yep. But there should be that conversation and that discussion about it, and there should be that sort of discussion probably before you're making governance proposals too.
Yep.
That kind of thing.
Okay. I need to go now.
All right.
I'll let you guys
go do
continue.
your thing.
Thanks so
I
much.
am still here.
Thanks.
All right. See you.
Thanks.
Guys.
See ya.
Cool. So I think agenda-wise, we've said what we needed to put out. Let me just have a look over here at the chat real quick to see if there's anything that I was talking a lot, so I wasn't reading as much. Let me just see if we missed anything. If you've got something that you want to say, or if you've got something that you want to chime in on, now's a good time to pop in and say so. Otherwise, we are going against the hour, which is what we try to keep these meetings to. Let's see. Lot holders have to do stuff. Yes, yes.
Agreed.
And Hyperion Frequency is right with that. It's like it is, the point. I don't want to get too off on a tangent here, but like part of the point of decentralization is to have communities take responsibility for themselves and govern themselves. So you need that actual governance happening. So that's a good point. So thanks for putting that.
The
in
code
there.
is a safety net, like we discussed in last week's meeting. The code is a safety net. The layer owners need to step up and manage their layers, and we can provide them the tools so that they can do so, and prevent these problems from happening. And again, I still firmly believe and will stand on that it's a numbers issue. If we had higher subscription in the layer, we wouldn't be seeing these problems. It would have a less effect.
Yes, I agree with you. And
however, I think we need to address and give more, maybe bad choice of word, power, motivation, incentive, whatever, to the evaluators, and build up that strength in whatever way we can. And I still believe that we have. I really like the idea that if you're going to downvote, then you need to say why. Maybe it's a principal part on my point.
I mean you're probably right about that because people don't
feedback.
typically ask questions about why am I getting upvoted, right?
Right.
But people do kind of wonder like, oh, why am I getting downvoted? What can I do to to improve that situation?
Exactly. How can I improve? Okay, I'm new to Den. I'm new at posting content here. Why am I getting so many downvotes? Nobody's telling me why.
Yeah, it's a good point. Maybe do that. Maybe that's something we got to make ourselves do too. But then
tags and tagging, I think, is a
tags can help make that easier. Yeah,
yes.
Tags can help make that easier.
Yes.
Yeah, cool.
That's all I have as far as, and it looks like we've covered everything in the agenda.
I think so too. I think we've covered it. And this is, I'll bring this up again. I can help here. I had, I don't know, plans, but life got in the way, but now I have time again, so I can pick it back up, I guess. But some videos, not like an hour show or 2 hour show that people have to watch through kind of thing, but like a 30, 45-second video about a particular, or 5 minutes even, about a particular concept, to be like, here's this and here's this.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, to where you could then send that video around, or you can offer it to new denizens. I even purchased a tutorials layer that is live now that I just have, again, to Hyperion Frequency's point, I haven't done my job to make that layer something that is driving users to it. So I can help out there. But if anybody else wants to make those types of tutorials and put them in the tutorials layer, I will pay you some sort of matter tip for it, or a lot, especially for that layer.
Great suggestion, making quick 30-second spots or this kind of thing. And I was thinking, you know what? If those were done and put in, say, YouTube Shorts, then we're using YouTube Shorts and maybe kind of pulling people into that.
That's good.
And then
that's good.
Linking at YouTube Short or TikTok or whatever. Well, we don't want TikTok, but we're linking it back to Den. You follow?
Yeah,
I think that would be
I was reading a little bit about YouTube Shorts. I found out about them when I was in Iceland, and I was trying to upload a video to YouTube, and it kept going into as a short because it was less than a minute, so it forced it to be a short kind of thing. But I looked into it more since then, and apparently YouTube is pushing it hard.
They are
TikTok-y and get the younger crowd back onto YouTube or something.
Yes.
So marketing wise, that's a very good idea. It could be that a series of YouTube shorts could both bring attention to Den as a platform, but also be very informative. Now, I did notice we're going to have to change or update, I'll say. We'll have to update the way that Den grabs a YouTube link to embed it, because I did notice that you have to kind of hack the URL from a YouTube short to make it show up embedded properly on Den. That should be a pretty easy fix. They just format the URL differently. They format the thing differently for a short versus a regular video, that kind of thing. But that's a good idea. Yeah.
That's a great. As far as I'm concerned, it's like it's a double-edged sword. It's a win-win.
Yeah.
Get it more onto more
leveraging. Leveraging. It's, I don't know if it's counts as poaching or not, but you're leveraging another social networks tool set to let people know that Den exists. You know.
Sure.
So.
Especially if someone's doing shorts on other items and Den, they get a subscriber base.
Yeah, I'm going to look into more of that over the weekend and see if I come up with a good series to do that. Tell you what, if you don't see me do it in the next couple of days, this weekend or whatever, let's talk about that in the tutorials layer, right?
Okay.
And yeah, get a party started over there.
Will do. Sure.
All right, cool. So we're at time. We'll have this meeting again next week on Thursday at 3 p.m. There's what kind of reminders do we have? So go propose if you have something to propose for the layers. If not, just hang out and wait till open voting season, or whenever, what do we call it? The lore commitment phase. And then you can start voting on stuff. There's a show on Tuesday called Super Happy Dragon Lucky, where Den.Social has updates from Joe. He also updates Dragon Chain in that every Tuesday, and there's an AMA every week on there. So if you have questions specific to Dragon Chain or Den, then you can put it in there. I would suggest like Dragon Chain specifically, because you've got this show like an hour of questioning on this one too. So that's kind of the only one where you have the Dragon Chain AMA. And then I'm doing coffee shows on Wednesday, where I typically will talk about some current events, and with whoever's on, it's open to the public. I provide a link if anybody wants to join and hang out and chat. And then we've been going through the last couple of shows this week. I voted on some of the new like fire hose content that hadn't been evaluated yet. Tried to do some downvotes as well as upvotes. We had some debate about what makes a good advertisement versus a bad advertisement, that kind of thing. The week before that, I was just going through, and this is a question that came up in chat. I was going through just the stuff that had already been consensus trending. So all I was doing that week was just adding. I had energy that I wasn't going to use that day because I had shit to do. So I was just putting my positive energy on stuff. That would have given me a bad reputation. That was a good thing to point out. So thanks for pointing that out. But yeah, Wednesday is pretty darn casual. We hang out and talk about whatever until we get tired of talking. I have fun with it. And so if you want to talk about things and stuff, hop on and talk to us on Wednesdays. There's a whole layer for it now, Coffee with Den, and then I'll cross post it into the Den layer too, just for notification. And then today on Thursdays, there's an 11 a.m. Eastern World Blockchain Roundtable. Today we did wrong answers only, a little bit of a different episode. Yeah, it was honestly, to me, it was a little awkward. I wasn't used to doing that sort of format. I didn't know how to play it. We had John Branch was there. T Swift or Die joined us.
Oh, I bet it was good.
Yeah, he was great. He has a great mind. He's clever, and he showed that today. So that's awesome. Go check that out if you missed it. Next week on that show, we'll be doing spooky blockchain stories. And I have no idea how that's going to work. But I have some ideas about, because there are some weird spooky stuff that's happened with blockchain. And it could even be like potential spooky things like CBDC badness or, that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So we'll see where that goes. That's next week in World Blockchain Roundtable. And then, of course, now we're closing out the DENDAO call. That is, this isn't a show, it's a meeting. And this is every Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. And we typically go over like DENDAO stuff, right? Stuff that has to do with how the proposals are going, the development direction, any issues that we're seeing, like the one we talked about pretty extensively today. And so that's this call. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays. Other than that, any last words from you? I am, since it's you and me right now.
I'm probably going to show my face on your show Tuesday.
So far out.
I'll post that. I'll post that in Den for
all right,
everyone to.
I hope you're ugly.
That's why I put that. Find out on coffee who I am.
That'd be great. Yeah. All right, and then
maybe I'll just wear a mask.
Yeah. Wear your Guy Fawkes mask. I'm like, I am Guy Fawkes. Well, cool. Thank you,
Yeah.
Hyperion Frequency and Know-How, for chiming in. That was really good points and discussion
Great
today. So
points
thank you
today.
for joining. That's what we need, is stuff like that. So thanks for providing it. And we're going to go out like usual with Enter the Dragon. This is a track from Y'all Weird about Den. See you next time. Have a good weekend.
Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best.
Adaptable, all capital, label radical yet rational. A doctrinal approach is palpable if this animal is fallible, but that conclusion is laughable. So with for all detachable from the mandible, you see it now.